Hello to my fellow U.S. citizens. My name is Richard O'Connor. I'm a retired physician and a registered voter in the state of Montana. I'm speaking to you from the Jesse A. Marcel Library near Helena, Montana. My representatives in Congress are John Tester and Steve Daines in the Senate and Matt Rosendale in the House of Representatives. This message is intended for them. It is intended for any candidates who will, this coming November, be running for political office against them. It is also directed at those leaders in the Department of Defense and the Department of National Intelligence who have been holding close a vast store of UFO-related information collected over decades and at taxpayer expense that concerns what is presently known about unidentified aerial phenomenon, otherwise known as UFOs. We common citizens of our nation now know that UFOs are real. We have been told this over and over again by many credible and reliable people who have worked within the Pentagon, by retired military pilots, by high-level personnel from the Department of National Intelligence, and even by U.S. Presidents Jimmy Carter and Barack Obama. Many citizens, myself included, have now concluded that UAP are not of human origin. Lou Elizondo, a previous director of a UFO study program conducted within the Pentagon, one called the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, has essentially confirmed this surprising conclusion on several recent occasions. That UFOs have been determined to be not of human origin is astounding, but that is the truth. We now have to deal with the disclosure of this truth, that it represents a fundamental change in our reality. I believe that if we peacefully respond to UAP, or rather to the beings behind them, these beings will not represent a threat to our national security. Their presence and interactions here with us have, over the past several decades, 7+ decades to be more accurate, have established a track record of relatively peaceful coexistence with mankind. Their switching off of our nuclear weapons has, in my opinion, been a demonstration of wisdom and concern rather than acts of hostility. When it comes to nuclear weapons, we should all share their concern. The war in Ukraine has shown us how nuclear weapons can and are being strategically used against our nation and other NATO countries. That realization makes nuclear weapons worse than useless. They are a menace to our civilization. They are expensive to maintain. They do not belong on this planet. And I want to hear our politicians discussing how we're going to get rid of them. The United Nations Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons provides us a path we can follow to achieve that goal. We also know that our nation, indeed the entirety of human civilization on this planet, is confronting several serious challenges that all represent truly existential threats to all life on this planet. These challenges include global climate change, our continued but increasingly destructive reliance on fossil fuels to produce the energy that we require, nuclear weapons and the ever-present threat of a global nuclear war, and policies of endemic, pervasive, and extreme government secrecy that have kept public awareness and understanding of the UFO phenomenon deliberately shrouded in myth, hearsay, mystery, and confusion for over many decades. We can debate the wisdom of what has, without a doubt, been a long-standing policy of UFO cover-up, but there can be no debate about its existence. We can be hopeful that the great taboo surrounding UFOs is finally being lifted. It is time for that, and our representatives in Congress must see to it that the UFO cover-up becomes relegated to our past. Finding the most promising solutions to these existential challenges I have mentioned above will, in my opinion, go hand in hand with American citizens, and especially our elected representatives in Congress, finally addressing the UFO phenomenon through a no-holds-barred process of discovery intended to uncover all that is presently known about UAP. This, I think, can best be accomplished through open, unclassified congressional hearings. These hearings must necessarily be accompanied by a time-limited guarantee of judicial amnesty for anyone from the U.S. Department of Defense, Department of National Intelligence, or from private industry who will agree to testify under oath at these open congressional hearings. Worn-out responses such as "that's classified" or "I signed a non-disclosure agreement" must no longer be accepted as legitimate responses to questions intended to get to the bottom of who knows what about the UFO phenomenon. There is too much at stake to continue to coddle those individuals who would continue to hide the truth about UFOs. If those in the know will refuse to cooperate within the time frame allowed, then send them to prison. Their assaults on our democracy must no longer be tolerated. Young voters, you should be paying particular attention to all of this. The future you are facing is daunting. By the time you are my age, if we cannot get this turned around soon, you will be struggling with the fully realized effects of global climate change. The peaceful application of technologies we can derive from the study of UFOs can, very likely, produce some of the answers we need when the scientific study of UFOs is freely opened up to the world's best scientists and engineers who can transparently exchange ideas and information about UFOs. Addressing questions such as how their propulsion systems work, how they produce the immense quantities of power and energy that they have already been shown to produce, who creates them, what their intentions are, and what their relationship is with both this planet and with mankind will be key to discovering the solutions to some, or perhaps even all, of these problems our civilization is currently facing. It has become imperative that we earnestly pursue the answers to these questions through the study of UFOs. As the de facto stewards of this planet, we can no longer afford to deny, denigrate, or simply ignore UFOs. Those days must be behind us. If our representatives in Congress cannot see the connection between UFOs and their potential to offer promising solutions to many of the problems mentioned above, then they do not belong in the responsible and esteemed positions and offices they currently hold. They must be replaced by politicians who have been paying close attention to the recent UFO disclosures and who are courageous enough and curious enough to want to address the presence of UFOs in Earth's skies and oceans head on. As a registered Montana voter, I want to make my position on this crystal clear. Any candidates running for political offices in my voting districts, be they Democrat, Republican, liberal, or independent, who will advocate for and support holding open congressional hearings accompanied by a time-limited guarantee of judicial amnesty for witnesses, will receive my vote. I would specify no more than 2 years' time to allow knowledgeable witnesses to voluntarily come forward to testify about what they know about the UAP phenomenon. If John Tester, Steve Daines, Matt Rosendale, or any candidates running against them choose to continue to maintain their silence about UFOs and continue to avoid confronting this phenomenon that has the potential to transform our world, I will not be voting for them in their next election. It's as simple as that. I will apply this same logic to any candidate for any political office that seeks my vote, from elections of school board members all the way through to our next presidential election. I would encourage all of you to follow this example and to contact your representatives in Congress and let them know how you feel about this. This is super important, and the other thing I'd like to recommend is that you read these books. UFOs and Nukes by Robert Hastings, Extraordinary Encounters at Nuclear Weapon Sites, and a book that I've written recently, UFOs, Nuclear Weapons, and a New Age of Reason. Both of these books will help get you up to speed on what's been going on with in the topic of UFOs, and especially with their relationship to our nuclear weapons. Thank you very much for taking your time to listen to this message.